Operation Heavy Metal is coming with so many crazy changes. It's going to make it very hard for you to know which attackers to play and which attackers are bad. In today's video, I'll be giving you a tier list of great operators, okay operators, and terrible operators that you need to not touch, so that you can better navigate this very confusing season and know which operators to play in ranked and which operators are good. Stick to the end of the video because I'll be going over the newest operator, Ram, and you don't want to miss that. With that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. First of all, I'm going to go over the tiers and what they mean. Broken operators are obviously operators that are really good and probably need to be nerfed. Good operators are operators that you can bring every single round and be viable. Situational operators are operators that can be good, but only in certain situations. Okay operators are operators that are just okay. Bad operators are operators that are bad and you probably shouldn't bring. And then operators that are in the needs rework section are operators that are so bad that they need to rework them because nobody is playing them at all. With that out of the way, let's continue with the first operator, which is going to be Finka. Finka, I think, is an okay operator. I think there could be an argument even for good. With the shotgun change that just got implemented, the sausage shotgun that she brings can actually be pretty outstanding. But you can say that with every single other operator who brings shotguns, so I don't think it's actually fair to place operators based off of the weapons that they provide, because every single shotgun in the entire game, if you don't know, just got buffed. So with that being said, I think I'm going to put her in the top of the okay section. Her utility is pretty underwhelming, at least compared to what it once was when she had frag grenades and a Gon 6 and her LMG was at all controllable, so I'm going to have to put her in the okay section for this video. Next is Flores. Flores, I think, is good. With a meta where there's tons of Azami, deployable shields, bulletproof Fenrir devices, bulletproof cams, barbed wire, and so much more bulletproof utility, Flores completely shines. He also has a meta 1.5 times scope with flash grenades that can easily help you get frags if you need to, which is why I think he's a good operator. Fuse is situational. I think there are situations where Fuse can actually be very good if you use him in the correct way. Keyword, if you use him in the correct way. Most people use Fuse incorrectly because they try to get kills with him and they don't try to destroy utility with him. He actually is supposed to be used like you would use a Flores, to destroy zombie barricades, bulletproof shields, Fenrir gadgets, and all of the other previously mentioned bulletproof utility. He also has an AK-12 with a 1.5 times scope, and with a new update, he's actually able to go through deployable shields with his gadget, which is super, super cool. But you can only really use him in a viable way to get utility on certain sites and certain maps where you can play vertically with him, and where the utility is next to the deployable shield or the reinforced wall that you would be using your fuse charge on said wall or shield. So I think he only deserves the situational category. Now, going over an operator that is bad would be Sens. Sens can be useful in certain situations, but a lot of the times you can just use smoke grenades and them do literally the exact same thing. Also, in a meta where people are playing Warden a lot, this can actually get your teammates killed more than it can actually get you the bomb down, which is what this is actually meant to be used for. And I don't think them changing him to a 3-speed is going to change that. Can his gadget be good? Yes, and that's why I didn't put him in the needs rework section. But I think they need to tweak it a little bit in terms of the hitbox of the gadget and how it operates in order for him to be at his fullest potential. Is it he, she, they? I don't actually know, sorry. Anyways, they did actually buff his gadget a little bit with this new patch to where his gadget, their gadget, I'm sorry, won't be affected by impact grenades and explosives, so that's super cool. You can't just impact the Sens gadget and it be destroyed. But I still think that the gadget is pretty underwhelming, and that's why they're going in the bad category for now. Blackbeard, I think, goes in the needs rework section. I've talked about this countless times, but I think Osa should have been a Blackbeard rework instead of a totally, completely separate operator like she is. But there's no use for Blackbeard. There's no way that you could possibly use him. I think the only viable way that I've used him is to counter cheaters, so that they have more shots that have to actually shoot your head in order to kill you, giving you a bigger reaction time to kill them instead on certain spawn peaks. That's literally it. It's the only way that you can possibly use him. He's so utterly useless, and even the concept of his gadget is so bad and unsavable that he unfortunately just needs a rework. Dokkaebi, I think, is a broken operator. I think they need to nerf Dokkaebi in some possible way. She just does too much. She's too versatile. There's a good amount of versatility, like operators with gridlock, where they have a lot in their loadout that you can possibly choose from, but you can't have all of it with gridlock. You can only pick and choose so many different things. With Dokkaebi, you get the complete package, and you can pick an assortment of items, but you get even more. Not only do you have the ability to counter certain defender gadgets, but you get the ability to take them over, which I think is too much. I also think it's too much that she can kick defenders and even spectating defenders off of cameras whenever she calls. I think it's too much. She has EMP grenades and Gon 6 and a 1.5 times scope on a really good DMR. She just has it all, and I think unfortunately they need to take at least 1 to 2 things away from her kit in order for her to be a balanced operator. There is a reason that last season she was the most banned and picked that she's ever been, because people are finally realizing the potential of this operator, and that's why I think that she's so broken that she needs a nerf. Next is Glaz, and Glaz I think is bad. I think the only thing saving him from the needs rework section is the fact that he has frag grenades, which can be pretty valuable, but a lot of the times you want to bring smokes anyway because they actually complement your kit and your primary ability. Even then, his primary ability is not even all that good. It just allows you to see what Warden sees, but on a sniper that you can't really shoot people effectively with anyways. But the fact that he has a bearing 9 and he's a 3-speed is pretty cool. He just needs some sort of buff to make him better. I don't think he needs a reward like Glaz, but I think he's just bad. Next is Gridlock, and I think Gridlock is situational. Gridlock can actually be a better operator than Nomad, but it's just very map dependent. Maps like Villa, where the staircases that have air jabs are easily able to just shoot the air jabs, are really bad for Nomad, because then you can't effectively play her and watch your flanks, but you can play Gridlock instead, allowing you to have much more of a warning when they shoot your gadget as opposed to Nomad when it only takes 1 bullet. But then there's maps like Clubhouse, or there's maps like Chalet, where you can't play Gridlock at all, and Nomad is much more effective. She also brings EMP grenades, a Gon 6, or a Super Shorty, or smoke grenades, or breaching charges, and she has great primary weapons, so I think she definitely has a place. It's just not, unfortunately, on every map, and that's why she's in this situational category. Next is Grim, and Grim I actually think is good. Now, I think last season, even with the buffs, he would have just been in okay, but with the buff and the rework of his actual ability, I think he's good. The fact that you're able to bounce his gadget off of walls and doors and door frames is outstanding, because then it solves the #1 problem with his gadget in the first place, that you have to expose yourself with a clunky, slow launcher. They made it less slow in the last update, but the problem was still there. Now, with the actual gadget rework, it's not, so he's a pretty good operator. He brings a 1.5 times scope, a 2x scope on a really good gun, the best shotgun in the game, a bailiff, hard breaching charges, so he just brings so much that it would be a shame and a disservice to put him in any other category than at least good. Now, I'm going to go over all of the hard breachers in one tier. Hibana, Ace, Thermite, and Maverick. They are all completely situational operators, because again, you're not going to be using a hard breacher on every single map. On Coastline, you never use any 4 of these operators unless you're using Ace to get the penthouse wall, but even then, it's still pretty rare. You're not going to be using a Hibana for every single site when you could be using a Thermite or an Ace. You're not going to use a Thermite when they have a Bandit trigger when you can just be using an Ace. And you're not going to be using Maverick in general. So, I mean, they're just all situational operators. I know you would love to see me put these operators in good or in broken because they're hard breachers, but it's not a utility meta like it once was, so unfortunately, you're just not going to see that in this tier list. Next is Yana. Yana, I think, is by far one of the best attackers in the entire game. She is completely broken. She is the perfect entry fragger. She has frag grenades, 2 outstanding weapons, the best scope in the game, an ability that makes it to where you don't have to drone and you can play easily as a new player, and overall, her kit is very cohesive. Not only does she have good abilities and good guns, but all of her abilities and guns and her playstyle are cohesive with each other, making her very easy to play for people who want to play her, and very effective when you do play her. So overall, I think it's zero question. I don't think anyone's surprised by this. Yana is broken. I think in some way they need to nerf her or change her to make her a little bit easier to counter her, but that's about all I can say. IQ is situational because you only are going to bring her if they have a Valkyrie or an Echo, because you're only going to bring her if they have utility that you could possibly see with an IQ. If they don't, there's no point in bringing her. If you're bringing her for a gun, you could just bring Grim, who brings the same gun, but utility that you're also able to play with every single round. So IQ is just situational. Next, let's go over Jackal, and I think Jackal is good. Now, I know this is going to make a lot of people upset that Jackal is not in the same tier as Dokkaebi and Yana, but I don't think Jackal is as good as people think he is. I think Jackal is not at all that good. He does have the best roam clearing mechanic in the entire game. Good guns, a good shotgun, claymores, smokes, whatever you bring. But compared to Dokkaebi, there's absolutely zero contest. Dokkaebi brings so much more to so many more applicable rounds than Jackal that I don't even think it's a contest. Next is Monty. Monty is situational. There are certain rounds where you can use a Monty and be very effective. Like if you want to take Rafters because they're playing a zombie, bring a Monty and you can just kill her. Do you want to push backside on the basement of Consulate? Bring a Monty and just kill everybody. Like you can play Monty pretty well in certain situations. I don't think he can be used every single round, and trust me, this is coming from somebody who was literally the #1 Monty player this season, but he's just situational. I don't think he's okay, bad, or needs a rework, because there are some times where you can be good at Monty and be very effective with him. So I'm going to have to put him in the situational tier for right now. Next is Nook. I think Nook is okay. Nah, I don't even think that's fair. I think she's still good. They took away her silent step. Who cares? Like you can still frag out with her. Frag grenades, a good shotgun now, a good SMG, a 1.5 times scope, the ability to not be seen by any cameras, which is really powerful in this meta currently. So she's still a good operator. Is she a Yana? Is she a Grim? Is she a Dokkaebi? No, but she's still good. I don't care if they took her silent step away. Let's be real, that's not the reason you were winning with her anyways. Next, I'm going to talk about Twitch. Twitch is okay. This is going to make everybody that plays on console very, very upset. But for PC players, you can just bring many other people that do Twitch's job and do it a lot better. She has her certain maps like Chalet, where you can get default cameras destroyed within the first 30 seconds of the round, and they are immediately crippled on defense. But other than that, she's not very good. Also, you're forced to play a DMR with her, which is not friendly to new players or people with bad trigger fingers, so I don't think that she's necessarily as good as she was last season or the season before, but she's not terrible like the people below her in any sort of way whatsoever. Next is Lion. Now, Lion is completely broken for the same reason as Dokkaebi. Lion brings all of the same utility as Dokkaebi with an even higher skill ceiling of a gadget. Is the gadget as effective in every single circumstance? No, but I still think that she's just as broken as Dokkaebi is. Because I put Dokkaebi in broken for the certain gadgets that she brought, it would only be fair to put another operator that brings the exact same gadgets with a really effective ability as well in the same category. So that's why I put Lion in the broken and probably needs to be nerfed section. Next is Nomad, and I think Nomad is probably situational. Like, again, map-dependent operator. We talked about it on Gridlock. But also, people are playing Solus, people have impact grenades, so they can just destroy air jabs for runouts. But, like, she's still a good operator, just really only on certain maps. And she still has good weapons with flash grenades, so I didn't want to put her in okay, but I don't think that she's necessarily as good or as reliable as the operators in good or in broken. Next is Osa. Now, I think, honestly, with this new update, and especially for console people, I would have considered maybe putting Osa in, like, the top of good. There could be an argument for broken, but I don't think that's really fair. And especially with this season, they nerfed her, making it to where you stand up whenever you put her shield down. I don't know if y'all saw that, which actually, that might get taken out by the time that the new season actually comes out. I don't actually know, but they did say it could be a temporary change. We'll see. Anyways, if that change actually does end up going into effect, Osa is no longer really that good, because it means that you can't just fully expose yourself and put a shield down. You have to be a lot more methodical and careful with where you put her shield. Does she bring EMP grenades? Does she bring a deployable shield that's see-through on attack? Does she bring really good weapons? Absolutely. That's why she's not anything below good, but I don't think she's nowhere near the console monster that she used to be. Next is Thatcher. Thatcher's good. He has the ability to disable any electronic utility on defense. Really good if you're getting walls open, and even if you're not getting walls open, you can still bring him and him be a good operator and disable like Fenrir devices and stuff like that. So he's not terrible, and he's not situational, because again, you can bring him every single round, but he's nowhere near what he once was when he was actually able to destroy utility. So I think he deserves the good category in my opinion. Next is Ying, and I think Ying is probably the most underrated operator in Rainbow Six Siege right now. I think personally she is a good operator. She has a great weapon with every single scope you could possibly want, hard breaching charges or smokes. She has 4 Ying Candelas, and she is really good for solo rushes and solo queues. So she's actually just a pretty good operator. Now, if they bring a Warden, 9 times out of 10, Wardens forget that they have an ability, and most times they're offside anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You can use Ying kind of like you use Lion to either get kills or to create pushes, so I think Ying is pretty slept on and overall a pretty good operator. Next is Zero. I think Zero is, again, a good operator. I think you can use Zero every single round and him be sort of effective. The only issue is if you're using him in a solo queue environment, you a lot of the times cannot trust your teammates to watch the cameras that you put out. So a lot of the times, you're just going to have to watch your own cameras. With the buff, where he's also able to deploy and flip his cameras through deployable shield, I think he can be even better on certain sites. And he shines on really large maps as well. With hard breaching charges to be able to get hatches open, and his ability to be able to destroy the kids on the hatches, I think he has situations where he can be really nice, and he's really good for solo queues. I think he's a good operator right now. Zofia, for the same reason as Zero, is going in the good category, because overall, just a reliable operator. She has a good mix of utility and fragging potential. The only reason I'm not putting her in broken is because she is a 3 armor and her weapons do have a tad bit of recoil, but that's about it. 2 stuns, 2 impacts, not really much else I can say. She's just a well-balanced operator. Next is Brava, and I'm going to put Brava in situational. Now, there is a reason for this. Brava is not good if they don't have utility that you can hack. Yes, you're able to still hack cameras, but at that point, you just bring Dokkaebi and hack those cameras and bring a lot more utility instead. With Brava, you're able to hack Capcans, Malusis, Arunegates, Fenrir devices, which are all very powerful if you're on the attack, but if they're not bringing those operators, it doesn't make sense to play Brava. Also, a lot of the times, my dumbass teammates just keep shooting my utility anyway, so she doesn't get much value regardless, so I don't think I can in my good conscience put her in good or in broken. Next is Kali, and I think Kali is just bad. I think with the addition of the new operator Ram, you can do everything with Ram, Flores, Ashe, Zofia, and many other soft breaching operators that you can do with Kali, but do them better, and you're not forced to run a one-shot sniper that's way too zoomed in for comfortability the entire rest of the round. Expanding the situational category, my next operator is Blitz. Now, I think Blitz is situational. There are certain maps, just like Monty, where you can run him and get some really good value if you know how to play him correctly. Elbow on Oregon, or just roam clearing with the person behind you on any map is a great example of how you can use Blitz effectively in certain situations. Is he good for every single site or every single map? God no, but you can still play him and him have some sort of effectiveness in the ranked lobbies. Amaru, same exact thing. She's normally pretty bad under normal circumstances, but if you have a 5-stack that's using utility that you can use to rush off of with the bomb and with her newly buffed shotgun, I think she can be outstanding. If you run flash grenades, the newly buffed shotgun, and the SMG-11, she is unstoppable with her loadout and her utility, so she can be good, but only if you have a strat in mind where you're going in the site hatch with the diffuser, killing people and getting the bomb down with a Ying and a Lion to cover you. That's about it. Capitao, same thing. Capitao is good everywhere you play him, but he's only going to be very useful in the way that he is meant to be useful on certain maps, like Clubhouse and Border, where you can use his fire to clear out rafters or to clear out half wall, or you can use his smoke to create one-way smokes to get in the bomb site and plant the bomb easily. Next is Buck, and I think Buck is good. I think Buck no longer is a vertical play operator. I think Ram completely took that away from him and Sledge as operators. Buck now is meant to be played as an entry fragger, where you just use his utility to make rotations for yourself so you can quickly secure kills and run into the building with your 1.5 times scope, your flash grenades, and your good gun. I think the way that you play Buck is completely changed, but just because it's changed doesn't mean it's bad. Playing him as an entry fragger is perfectly viable. So that's why I think he's still a good operator. Ashe, I also think, is a good operator. I don't think there is any circumstance where you can't play Ashe, because the way you're meant to play her is just equip the G36C 1.5 times scope and run in. That's how you play Ashe. Welcome to Ashe and welcome to Siege. That's just how it goes. Unfortunately, this meta really favors playstyles like that, so she just happens to be good in this meta. If we were in a utility meta, she would probably be in bad or in okay, because her utility is not that impactful, and you can do what she does with many other operators and do it better. But unfortunately, it's just her meta, so she's a good operator. My final operator before I talk about Ram is Sledge. Sledge is a bit of a weird one. I think Sledge deserves to be in okay. The reason for this being is because, again, he got completely kicked off of being a good vertical play operator because Ram is now in the game. The only thing keeping Sledge at all in this meta and at all playable is the fact that he has frag grenades. So there are certain plays that you can do with Sledge where you throw a frag grenade onto a soft floor and sledge the frag grenade so that it falls onto unsuspecting defenders. But other than that, there's not much you can do with him. He's very good for newer players, and he's very good for just reliability in general, but he gets outshined by literally everybody that does his job but better. So I think, unfortunately, he is just okay and the top of okay at that. And then the final operator on attack, the new operator coming to Rainbow Six Siege, Ram, is broken. S tier completely, no question about it. I think she is probably the most game-breaking attacker that has been released in the past 2 years. Hands down, no question. Not only does she have an uncounterable ability, which I've talked about so often, but she has 4 of them. Not only is her main ability really, really good, but she has a 1.5 times scope on the R4C. What were they thinking? She also has a secondary shotgun, which, as you know, shotguns got buffed, so it's actually a good weapon that can get kills, not only just get soft destruction. She also has hard breaching charges, which completely eliminates Buck from being able to play vert upstairs to downstairs, because that was his job. And she also has flash grenades. What were they thinking, giving an operator flash grenades and an R4C with a 1.5 times scope? What was the thought process? But all jokes aside, I think she's absolutely broken. Now, she has a 3 armor, but I don't think that matters in the slightest. She has so much utility and so much good and uncounterable utility and a good gun that they couldn't possibly nerf this operator enough to make her bad. So I think she's absolutely broken. With that out of the way, that is it for the entire tier list. Check out this next video where I go over everything that was released with the new season in case you want to know about the stuff that I was talking about earlier. And my name's Alka, and I'll see you on the next video. Later.